Welcome to Fourth and Nine to Victory. I'm your host, B. Jenkins. I got a special guest with me today. I got my guy Leon. What's going on, Leon?
What's going on? Fight on.
All right,
Appreciate you,
before
Brian.
hey, no problem. Well, hey, we appreciate you here at Fourth and Nine. My running mate Chris, he couldn't make it today. He had a family emergency. So for all of those subscribers out there, everybody that's listening, please, you guys, send up a special prayer for my running mate Chris. He got some things he need to deal with, some family that needs his assistance. So if you guys could find it in your heart, if that's your if that's how you guys worship, you worship a higher power, I'm going to ask that you keep him in your prayers, keep him and his family in your prayers, okay? But today I'm here with my main guy Leon. He's a regular on the show. You'll catch him on our show on lives whenever we go live, whenever the Trojans gear up for competition. And before we get started, Leon, let them know where they can find you at on social media.
Yeah, I'm usually on Twitter arguing with people, going back and forth. My Twitter handle is LJR38 Racing.
Okay.
So just come follow
Okay.
me, check me out.
All right. Definitely. Now, of course, the Trojans came up short in Eugene on this past Saturday, 42-27. We're going to get into some position grades here in a sec. But we had everything our destiny in our own hands, right? We just came up a little short. I know a lot of people expectations are make the playoffs is always playoff or bust, but a lot of times we're gonna have to let things work itself out. I think there's some deficiencies that the coaching staff is going to have to address in the off season. I will say this: we will have a decent bowl game this season. Instant gratification though is what the fans want to see. They don't want to continue to go watch other teams play in the playoffs and us not get the opportunity. But I will say this, Leon, it's best that we go ahead and see where we're still deficient at now in a regular season and probably play a lesser meaningful game than to get in the playoffs and lay an egg, right?
Right. I
Right.
just think, like you said, it's the instant gratification society we
Mhm.
live in,
Right.
and then on top of that, the 2023 season where we went 11-1. So I guess,
Right.
everybody expected us to take the
That's
next
at a
leap.
high. It set a high mark, right? A high benchmark for
Yeah.
it, right? Right.
The standard is the standard,
The
right? So
standard
we
was
was up
it
here.
started off high. We had a Heisman winning
Yeah.
quarterback, and we what the most important thing was I think we were fortuitous in the transfer portal. A lot of those kids that Riley picked up in the transfer portal bonded with each other. They didn't have the highest grades, but they came in and they contributed to the team. And no one had really seen a player like Caleb in a long time. So I think we were our offense kept us in a lot of games. If you remember that season, we were very fortunate on defense. We got a lot of turnovers. We led the nation in
Turnovers.
turnovers, right? But when it came down to the brass tacks of it, we couldn't stop the running game that kept us out of the playoffs. That and Caleb Williams pulling his hamstring, and ultimately lost that game for us. And then the following year, it's been 7-6, 6-6, and now we have the opportunity here with a victory on Saturday. We're not going to take anything for granted, but we have the opportunity to go 9-3, and if we can finish out the season out 9-3 and potentially win a bowl game, we're still looking at a double-digit win season. It's a vast improvement from last season because you remember this time last season we were just trying to get in the bowl game, right? We had switched
Right.
quarterbacks at the end of the season. Jay Malva took over. The other quarterback, Miller Moss, went on to another opportunity. But we would just fight for our life just to get in the bowl game. Just so happened we ran into Texas A&M in that bowl game and we beat Texas A&M. And look where they are now. Texas A&M, one of the top three teams in the nation. So I think that once we address those deficiencies in the portal, because I do think that we are going to hit the portal, and once our players get a little more experience, we got a lot of young talent out there, and I think you pointed that out on Saturday, right? We got some young
Yeah.
guys out there in some key positions. We talk about the linebacker position. We talk about the guys that we depend on the most in the trenches, Floyd Boucard and Nathanos. These are true freshmen. And then you think about it, Cam Crawford. He's a true sophomore. It's the future, and we're going to bring in some people. But during the offseason, when before we got the GM and Riley was going after these big name, big fish defensive linemen, we were swinging and we just couldn't land them. and whether or not it was due to the bag wasn't big enough, or whether or not they thought that they would get more playing opportunities. Maybe the NIL just didn't fit, what they needed to fit for their lifestyle. Then we just missed out on those guys, and you see what happened. It came down to a lot of games, that we lost came down to the trenches, right? Not being able to establish that strong front up, and the linebacker play. The linebacker play kind of hurt us down the stretch.
Two things that you spoke about. So one is the NIL. If you go back and look at 2024, I think the fans were really frustrated that we didn't spend money on guys like Derek Harmon and
Right.
what was the other guy's name? It was
I know
Derek
what you're talking
Harmon
about.
and
I know what you're
damn, I
talking
just had his name on the tip of my tongue when you was talking about it.
about.
And so we didn't spend the money on those two guys. And
Right.
then coming 2025, when we finally got our NIL together, we went and got the number one defensive tackle in the winter spring portal, which was Keyshawn Silver. And then we got another top 20 guy. He was number 16, and Jamal Jarrett.
Right.
So I think we had, USC fans are like, oh man, good. We got two SEC 330
Players.
plus
Right.
pound
Right.
defensive tackles, those zero techs that we need to control the line of scrimmage. And, for one reason or another, it didn't work out. And then you talk about the offensive line and how young we are. If you actually think about it, I got here in my notes.
Yeah.
Justin Tuano, redshirt freshman. You have Miller, who was a walk-on redshirt freshman, and Tobias Raymond, who's a redshirt sophomore. So 3 young players who didn't get any time last year for I think Tobias Raymond did for a little bit, but Justin Tuano not
was
really.
walk on too, wasn't it? If I'm not mistaken, wasn't it Killian O'Connor?
Killian O'Connor was a walk-on who
Right.
got his scholarship last year.
Right. Okay.
So against Oregon's defensive line, and they got 4 and 5 stars, 3 and 4 deep.
Yeah.
So, I guess we'll get into it as we go through the position groups.
Yeah,
but yes, we're a very young team. I think Michigan is number 1 youngest in the Big Ten. I think we're next. And then, like you said, if you go talk about on the defensive line, we have, Shelby, who's a junior, Lucas is a senior, Dev is a junior, G-Day is a true sophomore, Cam's a true sophomore. But then your depth coming up, you have Annis, who's a freshman, Floyd's a freshman, Carlon Jones, redshirt freshman. So very young when you start talking about the second and third team guys.
Right. And especially what we got coming in. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into it. We're going to give our grades for this past Saturday. Again, Trojans came up short on the road in Eugene, 42-27. If you watch that game, you would think, and of course, a lot of these sports platforms are saying that USC was dominated. That was not the case. We kind of shot ourselves in the foot with the special teams. But overall offensive grade, just the overall offensive grade, we're going to give that. Then we're going to move on to the defense and then the special teams. So we could, Leon, let me have your overall offensive grade for this past Saturday.
I'm going to have to give the guys a C.
Okay.
If you take in everything in totality with all the different offensive groups, it's definitely a C. They did some really good things on offense. They did some in one particular area they weren't so good, and I guess we'll dig into that later. But just to see if you think about quarterback, linemen, running backs, tight ends, I'm gonna give them a C.
Overall, I want to say the same thing. I'm going to say a C plus. And the reason why I gave them a C plus is because, of course, we had the turnovers, but we couldn't open up any running lanes. So where Oregon turned this into a one-dimensional team. If you notice, another game that we weren't able to open up any be effective in the run game was against Notre Dame, right?
Notre Dame.
It ended up being somewhat of a similar game, except for against Notre Dame, we didn't shoot ourselves in the foot. We just couldn't stop the running game. But they turned us into a one-dimensional team. Quarterback had to end up throwing the ball more than what I think Riley wanted him to throw. I think the most he's thrown on the season, he had 43 attempts. So while he passed for over 300 yards, had 3 touchdowns, and Mekhi Lemon threw for a touchdown, we couldn't establish a running game. So, and then, like I said, the turnover. So for that, I'm going to say a C plus. Overall defensive grade.
My overall defensive grade, I'm going to say B minus,
B minus. Okay.
C plus. I'm kind of leaning more toward the B plus side. I don't think people, if people actually go back and rewatch the game, turn off the sound of the commentators and just watch
Right.
the game,
Hmm.
I don't think the defense played that bad.
Right.
Um, I think I said this on while we were watching the game live. If you
Hmm.
actually look at it, Oregon averages 250, 260 yards rushing per game. The defense held them to 179. And that's
Right.
why I was asking Chris the question if I'd have told you before the game, Jaden Mava threw for 300 and we held them to
Right. I
179, what
remember
would your
that. I
thought
remember
be?
that.
And because all week, all we heard was Oregon's going to run all over our defense. And they didn't for the most part. I like you said before during the offensive grade, we committed mistakes that shot ourselves in the foot. Not
Right.
just the not just the special team stuff, but also the penalties here and there being a little bit undisciplined. But
Right.
overall, and I guess we'll get into it, but I'll give them a B,
Yeah.
B
Overall,
minus.
I want to say I want to say a C plus overall as well. You're right. The defense didn't play that bad. We still had some issues with stopping the run somewhat in spurts, but the defense didn't play the bad. Special teams put them in a bad position. Um, again, you mentioned it with the lack of discipline, the immaturity. We saw some players out there making some mistakes they know they probably should, probably if they could, they had been thinking ahead of time, they probably would not have done. They got caught up, and I'm going to chalk that up to getting caught up into the emotion of the game, right? Being out there in Eugene, Oregon, both schools, there's really bad blood between both schools, if you want to be honest. Neither team. I'm sure there's individual friends on the team, but when you get down to the bottom of it, to the gist of it, these two schools really don't like each other. Now, of course, there's other opponents out there across the college landscape that you wouldn't find USC, being invited to the Christmas party, at work. But I think with the whole Oregon thing, with them dipping into Southern California for as long as they have, taking out the recruits, speaking negative against the program, talking about the sanctions and how they're so much farther advanced than USC, which you could say for a certain time period, from a recruitment standpoint they were, but you have to give context to everything, right? Why are you guys in that position? You guys are in that position because of those sanctions that came down. But again, we'll say that for another show. But
And
I can't say that Oregon, even though you got a lot of these platforms, I'm gonna let you go here in a second. Even though you got a lot of these shows, a lot of these pundits out here talking about how Oregon is the leading program on the West Coast. Until you win something, you're not leading anything. Go ahead, Leon.
no, I was just going to comment the same thing you were just saying, talking about the bad blood between the programs.
Mm-hmm.
Also, look at how many of these guys played against each other in high school. You got
Right,
Nasir Wyatt, you got Breland, you got
right.
Finney, you got all these dudes on Oregon that played against Selly, played against a lot of the guys who were playing on the
Mm-hmm.
defensive side of the ball and the offensive side of the ball too.
Then you have to
Makai,
also.
he
I'm
was
glad
at
you
Little
brought that
South
up.
Smith.
I'm glad you brought that up. Then you have to also look at who we lost to and who we lost in transfer portal to Oregon. When you talk about the likes of Bear Alexander, Emmanuel Pregnon, and Gary Bryant Jr., who left a couple years back. He didn't play in that game, but the main two were Bear Alexander and Emmanuel Pregnon. Both guys contributed, made big contributions last season for USC, especially Emmanuel Pricknow, which kind of caught everybody off guard because we were expecting him to do what? Come back and be one of the anchors on that offensive line, right? Not so much as
Yes.
Alexander. We got depth as far as Trent's play, but Emmanuel Pricknow, he was projected to be one of the starters. And I understand, I'm not going to count anybody's pockets. In this stage of college athletics, Leon, man, these kids are not just going to hear that pep talk, that most recruiters give to them when they come on a trip. A lot of times, they're choosing these schools for financial reasons, and I can't say that I blame them. So,
Well,
go ahead.
I was just going to, talk about the financial thing for a second. The thing that puts a bad taste in the USC fans' mouth is Pregnon came back after he asked for more money when he wasn't going to the draft.
Mhm.
USC gave him the bump to stay, and he
Okay.
played in the bowl game. So he
Oh,
got the
okay.
bump that he wanted.
Right.
And then for him to leave to go to Oregon because they gave him a little bit more money, I think that's the part that put the bad taste in the SC fans' mouth. Now,
Right.
as for Bear Alexander, I'm not going to talk bad out nobody.
Right.
I actually talked to Tony Jones last year. His I'm
That's
not
his
call him
dad.
handler.
Tony Jones,
It's
that's his
it's
dad,
his
right?
it's his father or
Okay.
his legal guardian, whatever.
Okay, I got
I
you.
hate when people say handler because he's not a handler. He's somebody in Bear's life. We're
Right.
not going to speak ill about anybody. But I actually talked to him because he was saying some negative stuff on Twitter, and we was exchanging you know direct messages back and forth. And I'm
Okay.
like, bro, this kind of stuff you said ain't really putting a good light on you. And he's just like, I'm gonna be who I am. And I'm like, all right, that's cool.
Right. Right. Right.
But when Bear
Yeah.
kind of shut it down for whatever reason, that put a bad taste in people's mouths because you call all these guys your brother. So you're supposed to stick with your brothers and play it out at the best of your ability, and he didn't do that. So and he went to Oregon. He had some success against us. Good
Right.
for
Right.
him. And
I truly think
things happen.
I truly think that whole Bear Alexander situation was one of those things where, the outside noise kind of got to, like you said, Bear's mentor, his father figure, and I think that's what influenced him. If you leave him out of the equation and just ask Bear, I truly believe Bear wanted to stay in Los Angeles. But again, you have to do what's best for you and your family. Best of luck to Bear Alexander. I don't know if he has another year eligibility left or whether or not he's headed to the draft. I think he did 1 year at Georgia, 1.5 years with SC because he redshirted his second year, right? And then he
Yes.
did, and then he did 1 year at Oregon. So he might have one more year eligibility left. But best of luck to Bear Alexander in this
Yep.
camp. All right, so let's get to the elephant in the room. Well, it's not an elephant in the room, if you ask me. Everybody saw that game. Special teams. Special teams.
I,
I'll go first. I'll go first.
you,
Since you did offense and defense, I'll go first. Special teams, there's no way I can sugarcoat that. That's an F. And you hate to be that harsh on players because F is such a negative grade, but we're in the day and age, man, where you can't sugarcoat anything. Do I say am I saying that these guys can't play? No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that I don't think that they realized the moment they were in and allowed the moment to be too big for them to the point to where they put their teammates, a potential run at the playoffs in jeopardy. Well, pretty much we're pretty much out of it now with 3 losses. A lot of variables will have to happen. A lot of moving pieces will have to happen in order for us to get in there by the skin of our teeth. But for the most part,
probably got
now
to
we're
lose.
looking. Yeah, for the most part, now we're probably looking at providing that we get the win on Saturday. Knock on wood. You never take a rivalry game lightly. We're probably looking at the Alamo Bowl. There's speculation that it might be against Texas, which would be big. Speculation that it might be against BYU, which will also be big. But I think the special teams got a lot of players got some maturing to do. We talked about the youth that's on this team in certain key positions. Well, it was on display. And I think that's going to come with growth. The maturity is going to come with growth. But I think that the special teams, because like you said, Leon, the defense really didn't hurt us too bad. It's the position that the special teams put the defense in, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So, but
Exactly.
what's your grade?
Okay, I get. When you get a test from the teacher
Uh,
and you see that letter grade and you're scared to take it home. That's what the SC special teams got. They got a big fat F with a red marker on
not
there.
the red mark on it, man. Not the red mark.
Yes,
Hey, Leon,
it's
you can't even change that one. If it's red, you can't change that grade. You can't change that
nah.
to a B
And,
or
and,
nothing.
and she circled it so your parents know you did
Yeah,
bad.
yeah, right,
But
right.
I'm giving them an F with a caveat.
Okay.
So the one spit. So we had a missed field goal.
Hmm.
We had a punt return on us
Right,
where the referees didn't call the holding, but we know in the
right,
Big
right,
Ten they don't call holding. They just
right.
whatever. We blind today. But the Desmond Stevens jumping through the gap to
Over
try
the
to
center.
block the field goal.
I think he jumped over the
Now,
center, didn't he?
I can't remember the guy's name, but he's an NFL and college analyst.
Okay.
And he's been doing it for 7 years. He was on Twitter trying to explain to everybody that call should have not been called by the referees.
Okay.
It was not an illegal play. He
Okay.
says that if you jump over the center and you are within the frame, which means you're jumping right over top of him, that's illegal. If you're jumping through the gap, which is what Desmond did, that's not illegal. Now, I know that, the referees on the field called it their penalty. It was they marked it off and Oregon got a first down and scored, but that was not a penalty.
Okay.
But we can't take it away, so I gave him an F with the caveat.
I think the rules, of course, that particular rule was put in place to protect the snapper, right? You don't want anybody landing on his head or landing on his back. So, but
can't protect himself.
Right. He can't protect himself. He's in a vulnerable position. But you're right. Players jump gaps all the time. You see players try to catapult themselves over that line all the time, but not directly over the center. I think because it's so subjective and is left up to the discretion of the referee, which really impact the game. If you go back and he doesn't make that call, let's just say it's just totally legal for the context of this conversation, right? He doesn't make that call. The field goal kicker misses the field goal, which he did, right? Knocked it off the upright. We get the ball back. We're only down 7 points. But instead, they made the call, which gave Oregon a first down. And then they go on to score two plays later, which puts us down 14. And then after that, we go into the half, and then Oregon gets the ball back again. So because it's so subjective, I think there's a lot of ways that you can call penalties in the league, but it's really up to the discretion of the referees, if you ask me. But again,
his name is Terry McAuley, and what he said was, this is not a foul for leaping. The player must leap into the plane directly above the frame of the opponent.
Okay.
He leaps into the gap. The fact that part of his body is over part of the opponent does not violate the rule. And then you have people saying that, well, he took a running jump. Mr. Terry said it doesn't matter if he takes a running jump.
Mm-hmm.
It matters if you jump over in the frame.
Okay.
And so he actually so I had some pushback from a lot of guys on the On3 forums, and Mr. Terry actually put the rule in the on Twitter and basically went line for line telling people, here, there's nothing about 3 steps back or anything like that. And one more thing I want to say is that if you guys have been watching USC all year, Jade and some of the linemen have been jumping through the gap all year.
Mm-hmm.
It hasn't been called. Jade actually did it in the game, and they didn't call it. And then people were trying to say, well, he's a lineman.
Yeah, like I was saying, man, I think because it's so subjective, that plane itself, it depends on the person that's viewing it, right? That's about to make the call. If they determine that he is within that plane, then they're going to call it. Just like you said with the holding. I think some players, especially on that Oregon team, they just found a more creative way to hold. Instead of holding the jersey, they stick it inside of the shoulder pads and give it a quick jerk, a quick tug, which slows the running speed of the defender. So now we got to that receiver, got to the running back. Now they can't do it. It's just a more creative way to do it. That's all. But let's go ahead and get into the position grades themselves. All right. Jay Mava, he went 24 for 43, 306 yards for 3 TDs and 2 INTs. What would be your grade for Jay Mava?
I got to give Jaden a C minus.
Give him a C minus?
Give him a C minus. Yeah.
Okay. I gave him a B minus. Go ahead and explain yours.
The 2 interceptions.
Okay.
If we look at the statistics in terms of the yards, the touchdowns, the big runs at critical times, you would think that's a B plus, right? But we can't have interceptions, There was a couple balls where he just kind of threw it up for grabs. I mean, I understand why he did it. You trusted Jacoby Lane, the 1B of the USC receivers to go up and make those contested catches. I think USC is number 1 in the country in contested catches.
Right. So he trusted his receivers. So, I got you.
He trusted receivers. But I can't overlook those 2 interceptions in this game where we need him to play lights out and where we saw that the running game wasn't manufacturing what we needed it to be balanced. We didn't need those 2 interceptions. And there was a couple of times where he was doing the RPO game and he was giving the ball to the running back where it looked like if he would have kept it, I think on one of those plays, it probably would have went for a touchdown.
Right.
So I gave him a C-.
I want to say a B- on it. Again, this is the first time I've seen, and I could be wrong. I have to check the stats, but he hadn't been asked to throw the ball 43 times all season long. Now, there was a couple of times that he did lock in on his first progression and threw it into traffic, which is why I deducted a grade. But for him to throw for 306 yards against a team who doesn't give up that much in passes, and I think they're top 5 in the country. And you remember, he did the same thing to Notre Dame. Notre Dame was known for having a no-fly zone, right? Carved them up for 300. So I gave him a B-. I think he just had one of those games to where, hey, look, I got to make this happen with my arm because we don't have a run game. And like you said, he entrusted his receivers to go up and get it. Just so happened that one of those times I know it was in the triple coverage and they got that one. I think he was throwing it to the tight end. So for that, I gave him a B-. We also got another quarterback to evaluate, Mr. Mekhi Lemon. He went 1 for 1 for 24 yards and threw a touchdown. What grade would you give to Mr. Mekhi?
I'm gonna give him an A- because he kind of threw that ball up in the air too. But like I said,
he had a dog to go up there to get it though, right?
Yeah, but hey, this time he ain't fumbled it like he did in Notre Dame either. But
it looked like a pretty pass to me though.
It was a pretty pass. It was 1-on-1, and you know the thing is we don't get to see a lot of the practice film or anything like that. So I wonder if Mekhi knew if I just throw it up, because it looked like Hines just climbed the ladder like he was like 11 feet in the air.
He climbed that ladder and got the ball, man. So shout out to Nick Hines. Like I said, I do anticipate Mekhi Lemon leaving for the draft. He's one of the USC great receivers that has come through the program. I expect to see him do some big things on Sunday. So I think that definitely from a receiver standpoint, we'll be in great hands with Nick Hines, right? All right, on to the running back room. King Miller, 15 carries for 34 yards, average 2 yards per carry. And Mr. Brian Jackson, had 5 carries for 16 yards. As I stated before, offensive line, didn't do a well enough job of opening up holes for our running backs to get through. Right now, they did pretty good at pass blocking, but as far as our running backs, it kind of impacted their performance in the game. So, considering that, what would you give the running back room?
Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to give him a D.
You said a B or a D?
No, I said a D as in dog.
Okay, go ahead.
I know it's harsh, and part of me feels it's harsh because I think you can see King Miller didn't have his legs.
Okay.
I was like, I think I said during the live stream we had that, come on, man, he needs the jump cut. He needs to, I was expecting him to be more like Waymon Green in a game like this. And
Waymon Jordan?
Waymon Jordan, thank you.
Okay.
And then after I rewatched the game the second time, it just looked like he had tired legs, man. Like he didn't have that. I didn't see him break many tackles. I think on one time he caught a swing pass and the guy just brought him down. I think we saw tired legs, and I think we saw a guy who's not used to carrying the workload, 18, 20 carries a game, for 6 straight games against, the top power forward teams in the country. And and we saw, and then I still don't think Brian Jackson's healthy. And so unfortunately, I'm still going to give him a D because there was no production at all.
Yeah. I was, I give him a flat C. I give him a C flat. The reason why was I do believe King Miller would have given us, some of those chunk plays he used to doing if he had the holes to get through them. I don't look at King Miller's running style as the same way I look at a Waymo. Waymo can make you miss in a phone booth, right? But King Miller's more so a 1 foot in ground, get up the field. If you don't touch me by the time I get to that second level, you might have to catch me. You might have to catch me 30 yards down the field. He's that type of back. So whereas with Brian Jackson, when you look at him, I look at him as a smaller version of a Lindale White. You know what I'm saying? He get on the outside. He's able to really impact you. You saw him come up big in the bowl game we played against Texas A&M. I think with him though, and I do agree with you, he's not fully healthy. But with him, he has to have that rhythm. So the more carries he get, the more impactful he's going to be, Brian Jackson. But he's been dealing with that turf toe all season long, and he only had 5 carries in the game. So, considering that we're on our third or fourth string running backs, I think for the most part for the entire season since they've been playing, they've been pretty serviceable, especially King Miller. But in order for you to to really get a rhythm going, you got to have the holes to run through. So for that, I'm going to say a C flat. All right, let's get to the receivers. All right, we had Tanuk Hines, 6 receptions for 141 yards. We talked about that one touchdown that he had from Makai Lemon when he climbed the ladder. I think that kid is going to be special. Makai Lemon doing Makai Lemon things. While he didn't have many yards receiving, he had 7 receptions for 34 yards. He impacted the game. Why? Because he had 2 touchdowns and he threw for a touchdown, right? Jacoby Lane, my guy, 6 receptions, 108 yards. And then we had Lake McCree with 3 receptions for 31 yards. What would be your grade for the receivers?
Question for you: are we lumping the tight ends and
Yeah,
the wide receivers together?
we always lump in the tight ends. Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna go A minus.
A
And I'm
minus.
gonna
Okay.
give you my reasons why. Yeah. I think the wide receivers were fantastic.
Okay.
I think maybe we've seen one drop pass the entire game.
Maybe.
And
that was a 2-point conversion, wasn't it? Was it that 2-point conversion?
The 2-point conversion. Yeah. And that's why I got the A minus.
Okay, I got you.
But everything else, man, tough catches, contested catches, Makai Lemon throwing the ball, Hines going up 12 feet in the air, catching it, another contested catch. I don't think the wide receivers did anything wrong. The only thing that bugs me is the fact that we saw Makai Lemon getting double teamed. He would have a nickel or a corner on him, and they'd have overtop safety help. And I just thought Lincoln would be a little bit more creative and get him some more ways to get open. I mean, we saw him line up in the running back position and come out that way, and there was some motion every once in a while. But I thought Lincoln would get a little bit more creative. But other than that, man, they A minus all the way.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Makai was limited, but anytime you're that caliber receiver, you're going to see that type of coverage, right? Because he can really hurt you. I think Lincoln Riley was creative to the point to where, okay, we can't, try to force it to him too much, even though we know he's being doubled. We'll really be putting the ball in harm's way. And you saw that last season with the whole Zachariah Branch situation. Remember when we had Zachariah Branch on the team, and every time you look around, we were forcing the ball to him, regardless of whether or not he was open, regardless of whether or not he dropped 3-4 balls in a row. I think it's somewhat of that situation. Now, of course, we got the better wide receiver when we kept Lemon, but I think at a point, and he did have 2 touchdowns to Lincoln Riley's credit. He had 2 touchdowns, but I think when you have to come to a realization that, hey, look, no matter what we drum up, no matter what I draw up, it's always going to be that cloud coverage over him. So let me get it to my other receivers. Hence, we bring in who? Mr. Tanuk Hines, 141 yards receiving and a tub. Again, we talk about a true freshman with this kid. He's going to be special. We got him at least another 2 seasons, right? And then we talk about my guy, the best wide receiver in college football, Mr. Jacoby Lane. 6 receptions for 108 yards. Now, he did have a play. Well, he did have a situation to where he went over to the sideline to get the ball back. And I said, at the time, Leon, I said, I don't blame him for going over there. I'm only mad that he didn't have enough players to go over there with him. And that costed us 15 yards, as a penalty for unsportsmanlike conduct. And I think that was a situation where Jacoby was just, I think he was frustrated with the whole situation because typically whenever a team picks off a ball, they keep it. Those are what you call the spoils of war, right? You get a chance to keep the ball. But I think he had just reached a tipping point of frustration to we should be beating these guys offensively. They were doing their job, but it just so happened that our quarterback threw it into harm's way, into enemy, really threw it into enemy's arms, and they walked away with that turnover. But I think that was around the time we had gotten the ball right back, and we're going to get into the defensive side of the ball here in a second. But we had gotten the ball right back. Again, the offense had its opportunities, but the lack of run game and the special teams is what cost us. So let's go ahead and cover the offensive line real quick. Go ahead.
Oh, just real quick on the Jacoby Lane thing.
Okay.
I saw it written somewhere that, Jacoby Lane is the emotional leader of this team.
Right.
And sometimes he lets his emotions get the best of him,
Right.
even though he's been doing a great job this year.
Right.
And I just think you're right. I think he was like, they're not going home with that ball, not today.
Right. It was that situation. You're not taking this ball.
Yeah.
We already getting beat, man. You're not going to take our ball too. So shout out to Jacoby
And
Lane, man. Shout out to him.
and if you're on Twitter, the Oregon player took a picture with the USC ball.
Yeah, the same one. Because he know they were going to troll. Sometimes these kids, right? These kids know each other. They know you're going to troll with it. But let's get to the offensive line real quick, and I want to get your opinion overall. Your grade on the offensive line. What would you say?
I'm gonna have to give them a C minus, man.
Okay.
The lack of running game really affected the way Lincoln Riley wanted to call the game, and it affected the team. Megan is having to lean on Jaden to throw 43, 44 times. But then I go look, I think we talked about it earlier. If you go look at, we got a redshirt freshman, a walk-on redshirt junior.
The offensive line has taken some hits this season. I agree with you 100%, Leon. We have taken some hits on the offensive line. I agree 100%. And shout out to Coach Hansen. He's done a fantastic job with working with what we have in the cupboard. But it just so happened that we've taken some big time hits against in the most inopportune times, right? We talk about losing DeAndre Reed at one point during the season, Killian O'Connor coming back, then losing Killian O'Connor again, DeAndre Reed coming back, losing Elijah Page, them having a mismatch, and I always say the two most important positions along that offensive line is going to be your center and your left tackle, because the center is going to call out the coverages, slide the coverages, and the left tackle is going to do what? Protect the blind side of your quarterback. So
and if you go back and look at the game too, we bring up the fact that we had a redshirt freshman at one tackle, a redshirt sophomore at one tackle, and then Miller is a redshirt freshman at guard. You could see the strength difference going up against guys who are way older than them. I think there was one play where Miller pulled the hit get Bear, and Bear just kind of like threw him to the ground and made a play in the backfield on his brother. And I think his brother still fell forward for 2 or 3 yards. But I was just like, yeah, this is what you see with younger guys. They just don't have that grown man strength yet. Going against grown men then
exactly
a guy who was making some plays against Justin was that number 10, that NFL defensive end that's going high in the draft for Oregon. I think they were calling him what's his name? Ugliele? Ugliele?
Ugliele.
Yeah. He was making some plays, and he's a grown man going against a freshman, redshirt freshman.
Right.
So yeah, shout out to Coach Hansen. They're gonna be good, man.
Yeah, they're gonna be good. They just need, like you said, they need that experience. They need some more of those college strength training. They definitely need some more steaks, some more T-bones, and some more what do you call them,
beans and steaks and
beans and steaks, some eggs and steaks,
beans and rice.
Right.
Hey,
right.
real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you see the difference in size? I'm not talking about height. I'm talking about mass.
Yeah.
With the 3 interior guys on Oregon's team and our guys, it's a big difference.
Hey, but we got some reinforcements coming. When you talk about, if we can keep that recruiting class together, everybody in on it. Sounds like they are in so far. Up to this point, we got 1 game left. We talk about the likes of Wingfield, that's out of Texas. He's already 3+. We talk about Tom. He's already 3+. So we got the cavalry coming, man. We just got to get there, and a lot of fans are gonna have to understand, man. I understand that you guys want to be in the playoffs, and this is a day of instant gratification. But you got to remember when Riley got this program, man, where it was, and like Leon mentioned in the earlier segment, that going 11-3 and making that appearance in the Cotton Bowl didn't do Riley any favors. If you get what I'm saying, it didn't do him any favors. While it looked good from a program perspective, I think that kind of slowed the staff, the program's response on getting him those resources that he needed. Why? Because you had so much success in the first season without it, right? So when you have that type of success and you don't have those resources, they're not going to move their feet quickly in order to get you what you really need. Why? Because you showed you didn't need them, but it just so happened to be fool's gold. We had that 1 year admiration, and then the following year we went 7-6, and then the year after that we went 6-6 and won a bowl game. 7-6. So we're on the right path right now. Again, we got the opportunity to win 9 games here, finish out the regular season with 9 games, and win a 10th game with a bowl game. All right, on to the defense. Defensive line. Defense period. Yeah, Deshaun Stevens had 17 tackles. Kennedy Urlacher had 9 tackles, one INT. Christian Pierce had 9 tackles, and Eric Gentry had 7 tackles. That's who led the team with tackles. But as far as like individual groups, what grade would you give the defensive line?
I'm gonna give them a C.
A C? Okay.
Yeah. Although if you rewatch the game, we did not see them getting pushed back like we had against Notre Dame and Illinois. They weren't getting off blocks, and also they weren't putting pressure on the quarterback like we thought they would. Part of that was Oregon was doing quick passing game, and they just weren't getting back there. Part of it was just getting held. Mm-hmm. But I remember watching videos of during the spring training for the team. Mm-hmm. And Coach Noah and Coach Henning would talk about they would be on the bag and they'd be locked out, peek, and then rip.
Right.
We're not, even though I sit here and watch, and I'm watching Keyshawn Silver and Devin. This one time, Keyshawn Silver based the guy up. He's looking, and then I don't see the rip to be able to get off and get the running back. Mm-hmm. And I've seen that time and time again. And I think that's the next progression for these guys, is being able to get off the blocks and make the tackle in the backfield. Mm-hmm. But like I said earlier, we didn't see Oregon do what Notre Dame did to the defensive line, which is pushing them way off the ball, guys being over there where the defensive ends are. They were there. They just couldn't make the tackle. So,
you mentioned it earlier. The size of Oregon's interior defensive linemen, but if you looked at the size of their offensive linemen, they were just as big. And like you said, they've been stacking them year after year after year. We talk about Lannon, who's actually has his roots, who cut his teeth in the SEC, right? Coaching, right? So he knows what to look for. And he knows how to put that weight on those kids, right? And keep that weight on those kids. So we'll have to find out whatever formula they have, as far as like keeping that type of size kids on the team. We got a new strength coach, Coach True, came over. I think, of course, you're going to have to get him more than one season in order to get these guys up to speed, get these guys where they need to be, which is Big Ten ready. I think we're going to get better next season. I'm looking for them to make another big jump. Again, here we got the opportunity to go 9-3, 10-3 with a bowl game. But I want to say C also. I just don't see enough pressure on that quarterback, even though he did, he did get the ball out of his hands rather quickly. There was some plays where he did hold that ball, but you just didn't see anybody getting home. And you have to hold the ball like that. Why? Because you have pretty good coverage in the secondary, right? You don't see anybody open, but we just didn't get home, So I'm going to say a C as well. Oregon was averaging over 200 yards on the ground. We only gave it, what was it set? 179, 173?
179. Yeah.
Still a lot of yards, considering, You want to try. Our aim was to limit the run, to shut down. Well, not to shut down the run, but to contain the run. But they're progressing and they're young. So again, there's a lot of optimism there. Again, the cavalry is coming. I think we're going to be better. I know we definitely better win this game on Saturday, right? But and we'll get into that also, with regards to the state of the program before we close it out. But let's go on and move on to the linebackers. What would you give the linebackers? I said Desmond Stephen had 17 total tackles, and Eric Gentry had 7 tackles. What would you give the linebackers?
I'm gonna have to give them a C.
Okay.
Again, missed tackles.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I haven't seen the impact of Eric Gentry, man. Like, I remember last year. I mean, he's in there causing fumbles against Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
all over the field, sacks, just dominating, man. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and I haven't seen that same player this year for whatever reason.
Right.
Um, is Eric Gentry having to cover for the other two, which is why he's not freelancing as much as like last year we had 2 seniors at linebacker, so he could just play a lot more freely. And this year he doesn't have that same freedom.
That may be the case. That may be the case.
But I have to give them a C. Desmond Stevens, a lot of tackles, still a little bit of hesitation in his
Right.
game.
You're seeing that a
But
lot.
yeah, I mean, even on the
And,
one touchdown,
Leon, maybe it's the scheme. You got to remember they got NFL coaches along the defensive line, linebacker. We talk defensive line. You talk about Coach Henney. Linebacker. You talk about Coach Ryan, who's in the NFL. The defensive coordinator. You talk about Lynn. All these are defensive coordinators. So the difference between them and a college coach is that most coordinators, when they get to the league, they already expect for you to know how to play, right? To whereas in college, it's more so development. So it might be more so the schemes. They expect for those players to have that anticipation, right? As you mentioned before, you see some of our linebackers really hesitate before they make a move, right? Once the ball is snapped, right? You see some hesitation, then they attack. Well, you know as well as I know, a step too late could be a touchdown, right? Or a first down.
yeah,
You're a step too late, you hesitate. So maybe it's that. Maybe they need to get all the way back to the basics and coach from a perspective of coaching high school and college as opposed to, okay, let's teach these NFL concepts to where it look confusing to the offense. But the problem is it's looking confusing. It may look confusing to the quarterback, but you're confusing your linebackers also, right?
but we,
You're
we,
confusing them. They're just as confused.
but we've heard Coach Lynn say that I go very slow and we
Right.
go step by step by step.
Okay.
But I do think that with excuse me, Jaden Walker and Desmond Stevens specifically, because they'll be back next year,
Mm-hmm.
they're going to be totally different players next year. Remember
Right.
that? Remember, I can't remember what game we were live on, and I said the problem this year is that they knew Desmond Stevens was going to be the starting Mike, and they didn't give him enough playing time last year. And Chris
Right.
kept saying, "Well, who are you going to take off the field?" And then when I was watching the game, and one of the commentators said the same thing, is that a lot of these guys didn't get time last year, so now we're seeing
Right.
the
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 inexperience.
issues,
The
not
inexperience. Right.
inexperience. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. Right.
Selly not getting a lot of time last year. Braylon Conley not getting a lot of time last year. You know, I think the only guy that's playing now that wasn't a starter who had a lot of time last year was Christian Pierce.
Right.
And we can see he runs all over the field and he destroys everything.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I think that next year we're going to see a big difference when it comes to Walker and Desmond Stevens. And they just need
The,
another year.
the difference is in this game we got coming up. Of course, we were missing our 2 starters in the defensive secondary, and we're about to cover the secondary now grades. We're missing Fitzpatrick and is it Fitzpatrick or It's Fitzgerald, and Fitzgerald.
Fitzgerald.
I apologize, Fitzgerald. And we were missing Kamari Ramsey, which was the senior leadership or the experience in the backfield back then in the defensive secondary, and you had Christian Pierce to start and Kennedy Urlacher to whereas they may not be that proficient in the passing game, but in the run game, like you said, they come up and lay the wood, right? So I feel like, this upcoming weekend, I don't know if UCLA's quarterback will be out. I haven't seen the latest injury report. I know he went out of the game on Saturday with another injury. He had just come back off of a concussion, and now he has neck spasm. He had to leave the game in the third quarter against, I think they lost to Washington, if I'm not mistaken. But he came out of the game, so I don't know whether or not he'll be playing. He can throw the ball, he can spin the route, but I don't know how well the backup can. But I have faith if Kamar Ramsey and Fitzgerald can't go, I have faith in Christian Pierce and Urlacher. Why? Because if Nico can't go, they're going to be looking at primarily running the ball anyway. So I got faith in those two. But let's get to the defensive backfield, the secondary. What grade would you give to our secondary?
Are you combining corners and safeties?
Yeah, corners and safeties.
I was going back and forth between a B and a C. I think I'm gonna have to go with a C. They gave up the 2 touchdowns to the all-world tight end.
Right. Kenyon Sadiq.
Yeah.
He's a man child. That's a man child.
Yeah, Christian Pierce was one-on-one with him, and that I think they were like on the it was like second and goal from like the 8 or 10 or something, and he crossed Christian's face and was able to go across.
Yeah, that's the one where I said that he can't let him cross his face. Yeah, I know you know.
Yeah. And then the second one was when they were in the 2 deep, and he went right down the seam, and I think he was bringing up Bishop and Kamari. I don't think they complete that pass if one of those two guys.
No, not at all. I think they completed that pass because Bishop wasn't there. If Bishop's in that game, that's a pick.
And one of them is a step too late, just like we said earlier, because they got. I think Urlacher got there right as he caught the ball, but you saw his strength, just being able to hold on to the ball, take the bump, and so I'm gonna have to give him a C.
I said it during the live that kid reminds me of a more stout Kyle Ford. The way he's just built, that kid is different.
You know who he reminds me of?
Who?
You know who he reminds me of?
Who?
Anquan Bolden from Florida State.
I can see it. But shout out to Kennedy Urlacher. He did come away with an interception. So for that reason, I'm going to say a B. Again, when we talked about those two particular players and Christian Pierce and Urlacher being more so a run support, Urlacher was able to drop back in coverage, knock the ball up, pick it off, and make a nice return before they called another penalty on us on Cam Crawford for allegedly holding. So shout out to Kennedy Urlacher. And that covers our position grades. Before we sign off, I just want to get into, and we're not going to stay much longer, I just want to get into the state union program. You've been seeing a lot of people on social media. You mentioned it earlier, Leon, about this whole fire Lincoln Riley narrative that they put out. Let me tell you something right now. There's a lot of college jobs out there that's open right now. So much so, there's a lot of college head coaching jobs out there right now, but it's only so many good coaches to go around. So much so that LSU and Florida are getting ready to are in a bid war pretty much for Lane Kiffin. Now, I'm not saying that Lane Kiffin is a bad coach. Don't get me wrong. But Lane Kiffin hasn't won anything. And LSU is about to back up the Brinks truck for Lane Kiffin. The same Lane Kiffin that was fired on the tarmac by Pat Hayden. Now, I'm not saying that the way the guy was fired was wrong, and I'm sure he's done his due diligence with coming back up through the rankings. But again, we throw around that term great coach too loosely, or top 5 coach too loosely in this day and age of college football, right? To me, all of the top 5, if you want to be considered a top 5 coach or a top 3 coach, you got to have some hardware behind your name. And Lane Kiffin doesn't have any. So people that's out here asking leading this narrative about fire Coach Riley, who you gonna get? Nick Saban ain't coming back, and if he did, he not coming to Los Angeles. What's the other coach name? Urban Meyer is not coming back.
Urban Meyer.
He's not coming back. You don't want Brian Kelly. You don't want Franklin just took a job at Virginia Tech. You don't want Sark back. Sark had his own demons when he was here. So who you gonna get? The Indiana coach who hasn't won anything? Who you gonna get?
You know what they want? They
What's that?
want they want they want USC to fire Riley.
For
Then
what
Riley
though?
goes to hold on. Then Riley goes to LSU with all this experience that he's gained.
Uh-huh.
NIL, how to recruit, the defensive, fat boys that they get
Right.
on the defensive
Right.
line or offensive line down there, and he gonna look like a damn savant. And then they gonna be like, "Oh, we should have
But
never fired
yeah,
him." Yeah, we told
even
y'all that.
even in a situation like that though, Leon, who would you get to replace Lincoln Riley? Who would you get to replace him?
Who? There is no replacement right
That's
now.
what I'm
There
saying. We
is
got
none.
one. We got one of the best coaches in college football. He's finally got the support, the full support of the staff. Now he has a GM. They got coaches out there that's specifically for recruiting and analyzing the situation. There is a growth. You only won 6 games last season in the regular season, won one with the bowl game, but now we have the opportunity to win 9 games and get to a fairly decent bowl game. Sure, it's not the postseason that we wanted, but I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. You're seeing the gradual growth of this team. We got a young team, and it's just going to take some time. But I understand that this is a day and age of instant gratification. Well, a lot of times when you get the instant gratification, a lot of times that be lightning in the bottle. If you want to be honest, just go ask LSU and Coach O. He won that
Hey,
one
hey,
chip, and then it was downhill from there.
USC fans, go look at the people that take Slim Fast or get those fad diets, and it works for a couple of years, and then as soon as they start eating, they
Yeah,
blow up again.
yeah,
That's not
yeah,
we don't want instant Slim Fast stuff. We want to
right,
put on that lean muscle with the creatine and the
right.
protein powder
And eat
and get all
and
nice and buff.
the
You know what I'm
tomahawk.
saying?
Hey, get the tomahawk steaks. Get these kids some tomahawk steaks. Get them
Yeah,
some beans and some rice. Get them some eggs, some protein shakes, and let them get out there and keep lifting, keep
yeah.
practicing, and eventually, we're going to get that finished product. But it's going to take some time. But we are definitely headed in the right direction. So I don't know if Lincoln Riley is going to hear this or anybody from the team will hear this here at 4th and 9, the victory, man. Listen, we're behind the coaching staff. We just need to have an environment where these kids are held accountable and the standards become higher than what they've been here over the last 3, 4 seasons. Go ahead, Leon.
I just want to say one thing, man. Um, damn, what's her name? Mama Casey
Yeah,
had a Twitter live the other day, and she was speaking on the fact that there was some people, so-called USC fans, to be talking negative about the coaches, talking negative about the players, sending obscene stuff to the parents and to the players. Man, stop.
right,
Some of y'all must be. Some of it is bots. Some of
mhm,
it is people that are not really USC fans. But
right.
the people that are calling themselves USC fans, just stop it, man. If y'all losing money because y'all betting on the games,
That's their
keep it
fault.
to yourself. But
Right.
to be sending messages, crazy messages,
Mhm.
using the B word and all that kind of stuff to the
Right.
parents, that needs to stop, man. Because y'all
Right.
know y'all wouldn't do this in their face. Because
Right.
you know
That's
the
true.
consequences of that.
That's
So,
true.
just for me, I know I talked to Miss Mama Casey. I talked to Jacoby Lane's mom. She actually DM'd me and we talked about
Okay.
something. It's like, yo, cut it out, bro. It's not warranted. It's not necessary. And you guys are acting like kids. So
Right.
if this here reaches one person, man, just cut that out, bro.
Right. 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 Okay. Well, that's going to wrap it up for this show. I want to thank my co-host today, Leon. Go ahead and shout your social media out again, Leon, before we close it down.
If you want to talk about Kobe Bryant, if you want to talk about USC, come holler at me on Twitter. We can have a discussion. Keep it respectful. It's LJR Racing 38. I want to thank Brian and Chris for having me on the show, man. I really
Yeah.
appreciate it. I love coming on here and I love getting on the lives when the games are on, man. Like
Right.
I look
Right.
forward to it. I tell my wife all the time, look, I don't walk 5 miles a day. I don't rode my bike from this
Uh-huh.
time to this time. I need to be on the live, man. So I appreciate you guys.
Hey, listen, man, we appreciate you being on there. Like I said, man, when we created this channel, man, we created it for the fans. We wanted to have that barbershop feel that atmosphere to where we can sit down and talk about the game. Um, we have the people that's been with us since the inception of the channel. You're one of them, so we appreciate it. We're going to be live again this Saturday. I think the game is at 6:30 Eastern time. No, Central time. 6:30 Central time, which will make that 4:30 Pacific. We'll be on at 6 o'clock, 6 p.m. Central time on Saturday, going live, covering the game like we always do. We're going to take on the UCLA Bruins again. If you find it in your heart, send up a prayer for my running mate Chris, man. Right now he's dealing with some family issues. We're gonna pray that everything comes out okay for them. But if my man Leon doesn't have anything else, we're gonna go ahead and sign out. Look for some more content coming out. Our UCLA preview probably gonna drop on Thursday or Friday this week. I'm not sure yet. May not be Thursday because it's Thanksgiving. Happy Thanksgiving to everybody out there, the Trojans family. Happy Thanksgiving to them. You and your family. May you have a safe holiday. Let's get back to business after the holiday. Hopefully we can go ahead and get this win against the Bruins. And until the next show, man, fight on.
Fight on.